Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and maybe it's cold outside.
Ooh, but I really can't stay.
Joining me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our snow fairies and little elves out there. I figured I might as well put a little fun spin to it because we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. How exciting. The holiday spirit's in the air.
Also a little stressful.
Just a tad bit. Try not to be so humbugish out there. Now, I think I found a really good joke that actually pairs very well with AITA stories. So here it is. Why wouldn't Ebenezer Scrooge eat at the pasta restaurant?
Ebenezer Scrooge at a pasta restaurant.
I know, those two things are kind of hard to envision, right?
Yes. A gluten allergy?
I mean, yeah, that would be why he wouldn't go. But it's because it cost a pretty penny.
That's a joke.
Yeah, a penne. Like the actual noodle, penne noodles.
Oh!
Well, let me go ahead and introduce our channel to any new listeners. Ho, 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 and welcome to all our listeners. This is a channel where we unwrap the gift of drama one AITA story at a time. Grab some tea or cocoa, cozy up by the fire, and let's see who's making Santa's naughty list this year. Not me. I'm on the good one.
That was fantastic.
Try to go for the deep ho-ho-hos.
You did great. So, Voyse,
Yes, Timstradamus.
it looks like we have some new shout-outs to make.
We do. We have 2 shout-outs, but one of them is technically a new Teatreon. So welcome to the Tea Club, King Tiger.
Grr. Very grr.
And for our next shout-out, it's actually a very long-standing member that decided they wanted to become a brewmaster daddy. So thank you so much for your support, Bratch W.
Welcome in, Daddylicious.
Oh, you're making me think of sweets now, and now I want some chocolate toffee.
We got some the other day. There's like a whole bag of it downstairs.
I'm so excited to keep demolishing it. So, before we get into our stories, why don't you tell me what you think of our morning cup of brew today?
I can't smell anything,
Oh,
but that doesn't mean the flavor's not there.
that's right.
Wow. What is this?
So, I actually decided to give you a cold infusion. For any of our listeners that don't know, Timstradamus is actually not a fan of hot teas,
At all.
but I like to give them to you because I like to have you experience the different tastes. Instead, I decided to do more of a cold infusion for you so that you can enjoy the coolness. So in this infusion, it actually has chamomile, hibiscus, butterfly pea flower, rose hips, blackberry leaves, dried apples, and cinnamon.
That's crazy.
I figured I'd make it as fruity and tasty as possible because when you do cold infusions, you have to leave it on there quite a bit longer just to have it really soak in that taste.
That's a 10 out of 10.
Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. Look at how excited you are.
Totally.
For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling an Asian man that his area is probably not big enough for me to enjoy anyway after he stated that I'm not a beauty standard? I, 27 female, am a Latina woman with brown skin complexion and an average size body. This happened yesterday. I was at the mall with 2 of my friends, both white and girls. We were shopping at Macy's when 2 Asian guys walked up to us and started flirting directly with my friends. One of the friends, who we can call Kate, is in a relationship. My second friend, who we'll call Emily, and I are the only single ones. The guys proceeded to ask Kate and Emily to hang out sometime, and even asked to exchange numbers. Kate informed both guys that she was already taken and told them that I'm single and free to mingle. The guy, who apparently called dibs on Kate, gave me an awkward look and said, "Yeah, I don't think that would work out." Curious, I asked what he meant by that. What he said next didn't shock me. He told me that he's looking for someone who would fit the beauty standard and would be good enough to maybe be introduced to his parents. I chuckled and said, "Well, that's okay. I'm sure your buddy down there isn't big enough for me anyway." I pointed at his private area. The 2 Asian guys and my friends were all stunned by my response. I told the girls to meet me in the footwear area when they were done with the guys and walked off. Later, as we were driving home, Kay told me that my response was sort of immature and stereotyping, and not all Asian guys have small areas. I told her, was I going to just stand there and allow the prick to insult me? She said that I can't expect every guy to find me beautiful and attractive. I told her that they don't have to find me beautiful, but to stand there and insult me and make rude comments like that is something I will never stand for. The rest of the ride home was quiet. Was I wrong? Am I the a-hole?
I don't believe this story is real. Or your friends aren't your friends. Because I don't care who you are. If someone's willing to be rude to you, normally, not only are you needing to step up to the plate, but your friends are too. So I'm going to call shenanigans on all that, or you need to go get some new friends, because that is unacceptable. Being honest and saying, hey, you're just not my type, that's an okay thing to do in public. But to go as far as demeaning you and undressing you like that in front of your friends, no. But who knows? It's a different generation of people out there in the dating world. Maybe that's how they talk to each other.
That would be awful.
I'm not a part of that. So people will have to let us know if that's just a normal thing to do to each other now. But in my world, that doesn't make any sense. There's other ways to have gone around that conversation without being so mean-spirited about it. Can I blame someone for making sure that they just didn't get stepped on? No. But I definitely can blame your friends for not only watching it, but then scolding you for defending yourself. But nah, your friends suck. But you don't suck, OP. You're not the a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. The gist of what Redditors were saying was, you shouldn't open your mouth if you can't deal with listening to the response. If anything, I go by the standard of, if you can't say something nice, just don't say anything at all. And the guy baffles me. He literally looks at this person and essentially is saying that she's not beautiful and her friends are okay with that. Ooh.
Not even that, though. He's like, you're not beautiful enough to even bring to my family.
Yes.
But then my pee-pee size hurts my feelings? Oh, hold the phone. What? No. You don't get to be rude like that and not have it dished back.
You know, every time somebody says pee-pee, I think of a whistle.
That's why I said it.
Well, I also agree with you, Timstradamus, and everyone out there that also said these are not your friends. And if they're willing to accept someone talking down to another person in such a rude way, especially when you're on the dating scene, clearly they're not good people.
100%. That's low character.
Well, let's go on to our next story. And I think I might have brought you a real doozy of a story here. Just to let everybody know, it does involve abortion. So we'll see what you all think of this whole conundrum that this OP is in.
Trigger warning.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I can't trust her anymore when it comes to her wanting a baby? I, 28 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 26 female, for 4 years. She has told me she always wanted children. We just didn't actively try for one though. I never pressured her into having a baby. It was more so her idea. I make enough and we own a home, so having a baby is something we can do. So, to clarify, I'm not mad at her for this. I'm extremely concerned, and I feel like everything she has said about her wanting a baby was a lie. Abortion is also legal up to 21 weeks of pregnancy in our state. So she told me she was pregnant. She was having symptoms and took a test. She was happy about it and excited. I was happy as well and offered to make an appointment for her. We both went together and she was 6 weeks pregnant. We have been planning. She even told her friends and family. She ended up having a miscarriage at around 9 weeks. It was sudden and she was upset and I comforted her about it. It seemed very tough for her, so I did my best to try and make her feel better. I had to retrieve something from a drawer in our bedroom, and I found some herbs covered under a bag. It was pennyroyal and mugwort. I was confused because I have heard of pennyroyal being used to cause self-abortions. I asked her about it, and she immediately became defensive and told me that she didn't know where it came from. I kept trying to ask her about it, and she ended up telling me she used it to have a miscarriage. She was crying, and I was just in shock. I asked her why. I told her she didn't have to lie to me about it, and I'm confused because she was the one who really wanted a baby. She didn't give me an answer about it. I told her that we need to go to the hospital to make sure she isn't hurt, since pennyroyal is toxic, but she kept declining. It's been a few days, and she seems fine. I've been trying to ask her about this, but she just says she doesn't want to talk about it. Apparently, she was telling her friends and family she had a miscarriage and has been accepting condolences. She's avoiding this, but I don't want to push it towards her anymore. I'm not too sure what to do about this because I'm worried she might be having some type of mental breakdown or something. I eventually told her that she should not tell me about having a baby again, and I can't trust her about it anymore. She was upset hearing that, but what else could I say about something like this? This might make me a huge a-hole, but in the back of my mind has been thinking she might have did this for attention from her friends and family. I don't know what to do, and I feel like a horrible person for even thinking this stuff. Am I the a-hole?
This is quite the story. Are we about to go on a journey?
We're about to go on a journey.
Okay. So we have a couple. I think they're both, 25, 26? And they've been together for about 4 years. They're not married, but they do have a home together.
Correct.
They're not looking to have a baby, but they're also fine if they do. So we kind of have the basis for what this relationship looks like. So OP's girlfriend gets pregnant. All parties involved love this news. And all of a sudden, 9 weeks in, unfortunately, she has a miscarriage, or what everyone believes is a miscarriage. She's already said that she wanted a child. So why is it such a dramatic change that we're going from we're really happy that we're having a kid to I'm making sure that I don't have a kid and not talking to my partner about it? I do believe that you should at least have that conversation with each other, especially when you've made it clear to everyone that you're happy for this. That's my only problem. Now, if you both know, like, hey, kids aren't in our future, this is not what we're planned for, you know, we might have health complications. There's a litany of reasons why that course makes sense to me. Zero communication. You had him find out because he opened a drawer and saw herbs.
And one of them he was familiar with.
So now what exactly is he asking?
If he's the a-hole for telling her she shouldn't talk to him about having children anymore and that he can't trust her.
I wouldn't blame him for not trusting her after that with anything. That is such a big leap from thinking you know someone. You guys want this thing to not. To have zero communication, I wonder what went on. Now, he does bring up something. Maybe she's going through some mental health crisis right now. You know, a lot of different things can come up in someone's life. A loss of job, family member. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of things that people don't know how to deal with till they're dealing with it. And maybe she's going through something like that, but that doesn't excuse the action. I would say you 100% need to go get your girlfriend help if you want to proceed in this type of relationship. And not just her, you too. This is a tremendous breach of trust. And if you don't trust your partner, you don't have anything in a relationship. So in my opinion, no, you would not be the a-hole for thinking this. There is more, I believe, based off how you answered me earlier.
Yes, there is.
I look forward to hearing this.
Well, first things first, let me go ahead and let us know the consensus from Reddit. Redditors' consensus is our OP's not the a-hole. For Redditors, they came forward saying just how toxic pennyroyal was. It can hurt your organs, like your liver, because of how toxic it is. And even mugwort, though you'd have to ingest more of that, but still. Aside from that, I think I really appreciated how one Redditor put it. Hemlock and cyanide are natural in nature. It doesn't mean it's good for you and that you should be making your own potions. Other Redditors were telling OP that his girlfriend needs to go to therapy, or they need to leave that relationship because that situation isn't good to be in. Some warned to actually start documenting stuff. Now, Redditors were floored that she actually didn't want to terminate the pregnancy humanely or safely. And for a lot of people, that's a wild concept. So our OP actually provided us some edits and some updates. Let me go ahead and read to you the edit right now. Our OP said, I'm thankful for all the info on the herbs and the advice. I can't comment for a few hours because I'm not going to be on Reddit, but I am going to talk to her tonight. And tomorrow, or whenever everything is calmed down, I will make an update. Our OP made an update. So let me go ahead and read that now. Firstly, for some context, we had Planned Parenthood that specializes in abortions like 5 minutes away. I understand people thinking she didn't want to get an abortion because of protesters. I completely understand. I drive by that specific place every single day for work. I have seen no protesters. It's usually empty besides a few cars on the side of the road, but I still understand why she wouldn't want a medical abortion from reading the comments. I asked her why. What was her goal here? She was trying really hard to avoid the conversation and left the room, but I apologize if this makes me an a-hole, but I told her if we can't have a conversation about this, I have to end the relationship. She came back in and said the reason why she did this was because she never felt like her family gave her enough attention in life and didn't feel supported by them, so she wanted to tell them she had a miscarriage so they can feel bad for her. I was confused because she could have gotten a medical abortion and lied about it instead of just harming her body with a toxic herb. I asked her about that, and she told me she wanted to have the experience of having an actual miscarriage. I was so confused and in shock, so I didn't say much else because all of this just sounded crazy to me. She told me she didn't want me mad at her, and she doesn't want to break up, and she was literally begging me to not break up with her. I asked her, is there any chance the baby wouldn't have been mine? And she said no. I told her she needs to get therapy as soon as possible. I thankfully make enough money to afford therapy, and I told her I will pay for her if she just please go to therapy. She agreed. I also told her she needs to go to the hospital, and I was telling her all of your comments about the septic that can happen and liver and kidney damage, and that kind of scared her into going to the hospital to get checked out. We went to the hospital last night, and thankfully she is okay. Apparently she drank around 1 cup of it a day for a few days. I found out she was also taking some other things, high doses of vitamin C, turmeric, parsley. That's pretty much it for now, but I'm not too sure where to go from here. I love her, and I do want to be with her, but all this is so out of the blue. Thanks for all the comments on the last post. If anything else happens, I'll make another update.
I'm still not okay with a partner not communicating. I'm not saying she needs to ask for permission. What I'm saying is there was no talking. That's unacceptable in a relationship. There's not a real good answer for that outside of I wanted attention from my family members that I didn't get when I was a child.
And to potentially experience a miscarriage?
It's rough. Is there more?
There is more. Let's get right into the final update. Our OP said, a lot has happened from my last post and now everything is calmer. I'm hoping this will be my last update. Apologies since this is going to be long. In my last post, I told her she needed to go to therapy as soon as possible. I told her I will pay for everything. I just hoped, for the love of freaking God, for her to just please go to therapy. That was the only thing I wanted. I haven't set up anything yet because she told me she doesn't want to go to therapy now. She told me she will never do what she did again and doesn't believe she needs the therapy. I was going back and forth with her on this, but she was very insistent on not wanting any therapy. I told her I can't move on in this relationship if she doesn't do therapy. She was arguing with me about it and told me if I loved her, I will stay in this relationship regardless, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I was pretty pissed hearing that because not only did she purposely miscarry the baby we planned for, she harmed herself for no reason, in her words, to experience an actual miscarriage, and I can't even trust her anymore. I was thinking about telling her parents at this point, and I accidentally brought it up out of worry for her mental health / me being pissed off, and she begged me, got to the ground, begged me not to tell her parents. I took her word, because I didn't want her to lose her mind even more over this. I told her I absolutely have to leave this relationship. I told her it isn't my responsibility anymore because this has honestly been making me lose my mind too. I was holding it back, but I really can't take it anymore. Also yesterday, before this fight, she publicly stated on Facebook that she had a miscarriage and was tore up about it, accepting condolences again in the comments. I brought that up to her, and she told me the same thing in my last post. She was pretty much just wanting to feel important to friends and family. She was so nonchalant about it and honestly seemed like she thought I'd think I wouldn't care. I told her to stop posting about it and to stop telling people. Back to when we were having the fight, I told her seriously I can't be with her anymore. I will allow you to stay here, or you can go back to your parents. She was laying on the ground crying at this point. I had my phone ready because my gut feeling was telling me that she might do something to herself. She would come out of the room she was packing in and come close to me and hug me out of nowhere. She said that if I'm breaking up with her, she wants a last final hug. The wildest thing is she came out of the room with one of my shirts on, a shirt she was not wearing before. Take it off right in front of me and tells me, "Here's your shirt back." I don't know what she was trying to do. She finally ended up leaving and went to her parents. Right before she left, she was crying, and I think it started to hit her that I was actually being serious. She was messaging me and calling me constantly, ranging from her just fixing this together, saying she wants therapy now, and her saying she will never do what she did again. I've been ignoring all of it. I realize this is not my responsibility now, and her parents can take care of it. Like what my worry has been, apparently she did try to harm herself. Her mom messaged me about it. She said that her daughter is at the hospital, and I'm assuming now on a hold because she tried to kill herself. She is physically fine. That is the last of it, and I'm thinking this will be my last update. I'm not going back to her, and I'm going to try and stop thinking about all of this and get a good lock on my door. Thanks for all of the advice in the last post. Now, Redditors in the comments section of this post told OP that he needs to tell the parents what's going on.
Sure.
That this is something that is very important. And now the parents, since they're taking on the responsibility of the mental health of their daughter, needs to know the full picture. So our OP put an edit and they said, "I am telling her parents now. If anything happens, I will just update it here." And in another edit, the last one, our OP says, "I ended up telling her parents. I had messages relating to this between me and her, took photos of the herbs she used, told them everything. Thankfully, they didn't accuse me or do anything drastic and thanked me for telling them. They said that they will tell the hospital what I told them. Not too sure what's going on at the moment or what's going to happen after, since she's being held right now. I will update this if anything else happens. No more updates."
I sincerely hope that his girlfriend gets the help she needs. Again, I'm not upset with people wanting to get abortions. And it is your life. Those are your choices. They're not mine. What I do have a problem with is inside of a relationship when we have agreed we wanted something and then for someone to take it away without speaking. You owe each other that conversation before that happens. And then for the reasonings behind it are disgusting.
What OP's girlfriend did, I just see as inhumane and cruel. Not just to the baby that was potentially growing, but they instilled hope in many others. They instilled grief in many others. They did it in a way that hurt themselves because you're ingesting toxins. How can that ever be okay? In my mind, you're very right, Timstradamus. That person needs a lot of mental help. Somewhere along the way, something just clicked wrong. You should never use a tragedy on purpose to get attention. That is not the way to do that.
That's a pretty severe story.
Well, let's go on to something that is still AITA, but not as severe. So for our next story, and by the way, I hope our OP and his girlfriend gets all the help that they both need, because I know they will both need it. Now let's go on to our next story and see what you think about a koi pond. Am I the a-hole for suing my neighbor after their kid trespassed and fell into my koi pond? I, 22 male, have a koi pond in my backyard. It's not just any koi pond. It's a full-blown, professionally designed Japanese garden with a bridge, waterfalls, and koi that cost more than my car. I'm talking $1,000 for a single fish. Maintaining this pond is my pride and joy. I've put years into this hobby, and my yard is securely fenced with no trespassing signs everywhere. Enter my neighbor, Karen, fake name but fitting. Karen has a son, let's call him Timmy, 8 male, who is notorious for wandering into other people's yards uninvited. I've talked to Karen multiple times about this, but she just brushes it off. Kids will be kids. Last week, while I was out running errands, I got a frantic call from Karen. Apparently, Timmy climbed over my fence to feed the fish, even though I have explicitly told him to stay out. In doing so, he slipped, fell into the pond, and destroyed part of my carefully maintained ecosystem. Several of my prized koi died due to the stress, and the filtration system was damaged because of the debris Timmy kicked in. Luckily, Timmy wasn't seriously hurt, just a few scrapes, but Karen has been demanding I pay for his medical bills. She claims my pond is an attractive nuisance and that I should have had a cover or something to prevent kids from falling in. I argued that 1, it's a private, fenced property, and 2, her son had no business being there in the first place. When I refused to pay, Karen lost it and started bad-mouthing me to the whole neighborhood, calling me heartless and a terrible person. I've since filed a lawsuit against her for the cost of the koi, the damage to my filtration system, and repairs to my pond, over $5,000 in total. Some of my friends think I'm taking it too far, saying he's just a kid, but others agree that Karen should have been watching him better. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for suing my neighbor after her kid trespassed and destroyed my koi pond?
I agree with him. If that's what I'm facing, and you've not reached out the olive branch at all, because this is a situation that's been going on for a minute. He says that this kid goes everywhere he wants. His mother sounds like she doesn't hold him accountable, so now she's bad-mouthing him to the neighborhood. Besmirching someone's name can be impactful, right? You shouldn't care what other people think, but no one wants to drive around the area they live in and see people look at them with
judgment.
Yeah, you should have taught your child better. Hopefully that $5,000 will also teach you. I like that statement the mother makes. You made this attractive oasis. I'm not certain exactly how she says it, but
the exact verbiage is an attractive nuisance.
What?
In their own fenced-in backyard.
It's private property. Your kid should not be climbing over anyone's fences.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. For Redditors, this kid trespassed, while the parent was aware that they've done it before, and they have the gal to demand money from OP. No. In fact, I suspect, based on another post from our OP, that they're actually from Georgia. And when it comes to close neighborhood communities, because I believe, based on some of the things that you've told me, some of those communities are fairly close when it comes to social statuses and how people work, understanding each other's workings, depending on where you live. I've always lived in big cities where you might know 1 or 2 neighbors, but not really an entire neighborhood. So I can just imagine the judgment and the harshness that our OP was facing by this woman wanting to badmouth him because she wasn't getting her way.
It gets around.
Well, I do wish OP the best, and I truly believe in holding people accountable, whether it's holding a child accountable for their actions or their parents, to make sure that children are not being a nuisance to society. If anything, I would have to call into question our OP's friends that are saying, he's just a kid.
No, I love, kids being kids. It is what it is. Oh, I think we had a story last year. I wasn't bothered by a kid jumping in the backyard and throwing a ball over the fence. I don't really care about those things. So long as nothing is disrespected or vandalized or stolen, I really don't care. That's not what I'm upset about. But in this case, something was vandalized. And then you're trying to better than thou him into paying for medical bills. Again, you're lucky, ma'am, that your son wasn't in a more severe situation because of your inability to be a good parent.
And I think that's the problem here. If you don't teach kids that going into other people's properties isn't right, there's fundamentally something wrong. At least I feel with the parent. Not with the child first, because the child's going to act like a child. They have to learn from their parents. Well, let's go on to our last story and see what you think about a boss giving an employee a compliment. Today, I fricked up when my boss told me I was doing great and was going places. I shook his hand and said, yes. Been at this job for a year. It's been extremely stressful and challenging, but I'm finally starting to find my groove. We were at our office Christmas party, and it was getting a little late. I was chatting with colleagues at a table while music was booming in the background. owner comes over and says a few things to me, and I didn't hear a word. He had a smile on his face, and he was clearly heading out. So I figured it was some kind of trivial nothing. So I shook his hand, smiled, and confidently said, "Yes, have a good night." As he walked away, I tell my colleague that was standing closer to him at the time, "Man, I have no clue what he just said." Colleague starts laughing at me and tells me, "He said you've been doing a great job and that you're a good addition to the team and that he sees you going far with the company, and you just answered yes." This got shared around the table, including to my director, who all laughed at my dumb ass. The too long don't read. I didn't admit I didn't hear my boss and got embarrassed. No other consequences than feeling like an idiot.
I've done that. I had someone come up to me that was trying to offer me a job as a recommendation, and they had it was a full paper form filled out, and they had me sign it, and I was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Well, read it." And because I was at a table talking with other people, I wasn't really paying attention to it, and I signed the bottom, which again you should never do. Don't sign anything without reading it.
You don't read.
But I trusted him, so I signed it. And I was like, "Well, what is this for?" And I know he told me, but I was still in the middle of another conversation with a group of people. I said, "Okay, cool." And then he takes the paper off. Days later, I was like, what did you give me? What were we talking about? He's like, "I was recommending you for a position." I was like, "Oh."
I know for me that there have been a couple times where I haven't been able to hear someone clearly. And because you can see that their mouth is moving, but you can't hear them, it's very hard to find a place to be like, "I can't hear you," in the middle of you talking, but they keep going.
It really does disrupt the flow of conversation when you have to go, I can't hear you.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
So half the time, yes. If people are in a place where I can't hear, I'll let them finish and then I'll say, "Can you repeat that again?"
So was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Good pick.
Thank you. I know there's at least one of the stories that's very serious, but I think it's important to talk about different situations, and as rough as it can be, I always try and end it off a little lightheartedly. And I can't believe you let somebody recommend you for a position and you didn't even know.
I should have read the whole paper. It was a nice position. I got lucked because it's you work hard for the things you get. And it's no different than this gentleman. He worked hard for someone in a higher position to recognize that. You definitely should have been paying attention. Yeah, sometimes you walk backwards uphill.
Yes. What did you say again?
Uh-huh. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on that little bell notification to let you know when we have new content coming out. We regularly try to post on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on Fridays, we have our Damas After Dark. I would also love to thank all of our Patreons for your continued support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of y'all. And as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today? And do we have any baby updates?
She doesn't let me sleep.
Oh, she is rambunctious.
So much movement. And now I have to do baby monitoring, and that was new for us.
We got to take Voyse in every single week now to do the baby monitoring.
Yay. I didn't realize just how serious it is when you're over the age of 35, just how, I guess, careful they are, which I'm really glad and blessed that they do care. But man, sometimes I worry because I'm like, is everything going to be okay?
Everything will be just fine.
And the reason why I feel like I can make it through is because I have you by my side, Timstradamus.
We're doing it. We got our crib, last week. I got it almost all put together, and we're missing one piece that is kind of integral to the entire thing.
Yeah, it keeps one side up.
So we had to put that in, and now we're waiting for a side of the crib to come in.
Thank goodness the manufacturer is so nice.
But I put it all together, and now I have to take it all apart to put this one piece in.
Yeah, but I wouldn't trust our baby being in it without that correct piece in there. It's just a little factory defect, but still.
She'll be fine. It creates character.
Character.
Don't go on that side, baby.
I'm not looking for her to have that kind of adventure so early on.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
No, you won't. I will first.